Every single day, over 2 billion people reheat their leftovers. Most of them assume that if food is heated thoroughly enough, it is automatically safe to eat. Here's the good news. For almost every food, that assumption is actually correct, if you follow a few simple rules. Here's a number I want you to remember: 40%. That is roughly how much food the average household throws away instead of safely reheating and eating it, often out of unnecessary fear or simply not knowing the right technique. Meanwhile, proper reheating isn't just safe, it's one of the easiest ways to save money, cut food waste, and actually preserve more of the nutrition in your meals than cooking everything fresh every single time. According to food safety data published by agencies like the USDA, the CDC, and the European Food Safety Authority, most foodborne illness linked to leftovers isn't caused by reheating itself. It's caused by improper cooling and storage before the food ever reaches the microwave or stove. In other words, the food isn't the problem, the habit is. The good news is that once you understand what's actually happening at the molecular and microbial level when food cools, sits, and gets reheated, you can eliminate almost all of the risk and unlock some real benefits you probably didn't know about. My name is Dr. William. I've spent more than 15 years studying nutritional biochemistry and food safety science. Today, I'm going to show you 6 foods that you are almost certainly reheating right now. Foods that are probably sitting in your refrigerator as we speak. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens to them, what's genuinely worth paying attention to, and what benefits you get when you do it right. Stay with me until the end, because the 6th food on this list is one that most people either avoid reheating out of unfounded fear or reheat completely wrong, and fixing that one habit alone can make your weekly meal prep dramatically easier. Before we go further, I want to be clear about something. This is not a video designed to scare you out of your kitchen. Reheating food safely is one of the most practical skills you can build. It saves time, saves money, reduces food waste, and when done correctly, preserves the vitamins, proteins, and flavor you worked hard to cook in the first place. What we're doing today is separating the real, evidence-based food safety practices from the myths that make people afraid of foods that are actually perfectly fine. Let's start with the science of what actually happens when food cools and reheats, because understanding this is the key to everything that follows. The 3 things that actually matter. When food is cooked the first time, heat kills most harmful bacteria and makes nutrients more available. That's a good thing. The part people don't think about is what happens between the first cooking and the second reheating, because that's the window where problems can develop, and it's also the window where good habits solve almost every issue. First, the cooling window. Bacteria multiply fastest between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. Food scientists call this the danger zone. The longer food sits in this range, the more bacteria can grow. This isn't about the food being inherently risky, it's about time and temperature. Second, moisture and storage. Foods stored in airtight containers, refrigerated promptly, and kept for a reasonable window are dramatically safer than food left out on the counter or stored loosely covered for days. Third, reheating temperature. Bringing food back up to a proper internal temperature, generally 165 degrees Fahrenheit, 74 degrees Celsius, kills the bacteria that may have grown during storage. This is the single most protective step in the entire process. Keep these 3 ideas in mind: cooling speed, storage practice, and reheating temperature. Nearly everything I'm about to tell you about these 6 foods comes back to these 3 fundamentals, and nearly every risk people worry about disappears when you get these 3 things right. Food number 1, rice. Rice is the most widely consumed staple food on Earth. More than 3 billion people rely on it as a primary calorie source, and billions reheat leftover rice every single day. This is genuinely one of the few foods where storage timing really does matter more than usual. Raw rice can naturally contain a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. It's not a contaminant from poor handling, it's simply present in the environment. Cooking kills most active bacteria, but the organism can form spores that survive cooking, and if cooked rice is left at room temperature for too long, those spores can germinate and multiply. and some strains produce a heat-resistant toxin. Here's the benefit-focused part. This is completely preventable, and rice remains a fantastic, affordable, nutrient-dense food to meal prep in bulk. The fix is simple. Cool rice quickly, spread it on a shallow tray or plate right after cooking instead of leaving it in a deep pot. Refrigerate within 1 hour of cooking. Store in an airtight container and eat within 3 to 4 days. When reheating, make sure it's steaming hot all the way through. This is what actually neutralizes the risk. Do this, and reheated rice is not just safe, it's one of the most efficient, budget-friendly meal prep staples available, since rice actually holds its texture and nutrients well across multiple days when stored correctly. Food number 2. Chicken. Chicken is the world's most popular lean protein, and for good reason. It's affordable, versatile, and packed with high-quality protein with relatively little saturated fat. Millions of people build their weekly meal prep around cooked chicken, and reheating it safely is completely achievable. The main thing to know, chicken needs to be reheated to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit, 74 degrees Celsius, checked with a food thermometer if you want to be precise. This kills any bacteria that may have developed during storage, full stop. You'll sometimes hear concerns about compounds called heterocyclic amines, HCAs, which form mainly when meat is cooked at very high, direct heat. Think charring on a grill or blackening in a pan, not from ordinary reheating in a microwave or oven at moderate temperatures. The practical takeaway isn't to avoid chicken, it's to avoid habitually charring meat at very high heat, and to reheat gently rather than blasting it on high power for a long time, which also happens to keep the meat from drying out and getting rubbery. Benefits of doing this right. Chicken is one of the most reliable proteins for weekly meal prep. It reheats well in soups, stir-fries, and grain bowls, and portioning it out into single servings before refrigerating actually helps you cool it faster and reheat more evenly, both a safety win and a convenience win. Food number 3. Leafy greens, spinach, Swiss chard, beet greens. Spinach is one of the most nutrient-dense vegetables you can eat, rich in iron, folate, magnesium, and antioxidants. It's genuinely one of the best things you can add to your diet, fresh or reheated. The one nuance worth knowing: leafy greens are naturally high in nitrates, which are actually beneficial compounds that support healthy blood flow. Under certain storage conditions, particularly if cooked greens sit at room temperature for many hours before refrigeration, bacteria can convert some of those nitrates into nitrites. This is a well-studied process, and it's exactly why food safety agencies recommend refrigerating cooked vegetables promptly rather than leaving them out. The fix, once again, comes back to timing. Refrigerate cooked greens within 2 hours of cooking. Store in an airtight container. Eat within 2 to 3 days. Reheat until hot throughout, rather than just warming the surface. Do this, and there's no meaningful reason to avoid reheating your spinach. In fact, lightly reheating cooked greens in some dishes, like curries or stews, can make certain nutrients, like beta-carotene, easier for your body to absorb compared to eating them raw, so reheated greens can actually be a nutritional upgrade in some cases. Food number 4. Eggs. Eggs are one of the most nutritionally complete foods available. All 9 essential amino acids, choline for brain health, selenium, and antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin. They deserve their reputation as a health staple, whether fresh or reheated. The main practical consideration with eggs is texture and even heating, rather than any special danger. Because eggs are dense in protein and fat, uneven microwave heating can create hot spots. Parts of the dish scorch, while other parts stay lukewarm, and lukewarm is exactly where bacteria can survive. The fix is easy. Stir halfway through reheating, use shorter bursts at medium power, and check that the dish is steaming throughout. Some people worry about oxidized cholesterol compounds, oxysterols, forming with repeated heating. In practice, the amounts involved in normal home reheating are small, and eggs remain one of the most nutrient-dense, affordable proteins you can build a diet around. If you want to minimize any oxidation and also get the best texture, gentle reheating, a low oven, a covered pan on low heat, or short microwave intervals with stirring works better than blasting eggs on high heat, and it also happens to keep them from turning rubbery. Practical tip: Hard-boiled eggs actually keep better unpeeled. The shell protects the egg and slows moisture loss. So if you're meal prepping a batch, leave them in the shell until you're ready to eat. Food number 5, potatoes. Potatoes are a genuinely under-discussed one, and this is a food where a real, well-documented risk exists, but it's easy to avoid once you know it. Cooked potatoes, especially when wrapped tightly in foil while still warm, can create a low-oxygen environment. That matters because the bacterium that causes botulism, Clostridium botulinum, thrives specifically in low oxygen conditions and doesn't require refrigeration failure to be dangerous. It requires oxygen exclusion plus warmth. This is a documented cause of foodborne botulism outbreaks tied to baked potatoes left wrapped in foil at room temperature for extended periods. The fix is refreshingly simple. Don't leave foil-wrapped baked potatoes sitting out at room temperature for more than 2 hours. Refrigerate potatoes unwrapped or in loose, breathable storage rather than sealed tightly. Reheat thoroughly until steaming. Once you know this one rule, potatoes are a fantastic, cheap, filling food to batch cook and reheat all week. They're rich in potassium, fiber, especially with the skin on, and vitamin C, and they reheat beautifully in a hot oven or air fryer, which also brings back a crispy texture that microwaving alone can't. Food number 6, seafood, especially tuna, mackerel, and other dark, oily fish. This is the one most people either avoid reheating entirely out of vague unease or don't realize needs a specific precaution. And it's genuinely useful information because fish is one of the best sources of omega-3 fatty acids and lean protein you can eat. The real issue with certain fish, particularly tuna, mackerel, mahi-mahi, and other dark flesh species, is histamine buildup. These fish naturally contain high levels of an amino acid called histidine, which certain bacteria can convert into histamine if the fish isn't kept cold enough for long enough, even before it's cooked. Unlike most food safety issues, histamine is heat stable, meaning reheating, or even the original cooking, does not destroy it once it has formed. This is called scombroid poisoning, and it's a real documented condition, though it's caused by inadequate refrigeration at the source, not by the act of reheating itself. The practical takeaway: the safety of reheated fish comes down almost entirely to how fresh it was and how well it was chilled before you ever cooked it the first time, not to the reheating step. If your fish was fresh, properly refrigerated, and cooked and cooled promptly, reheating it the next day is completely fine and a great way to get more omega-3s into your week without cooking fish from scratch every time. Practical tips for reheating fish well. Reheat gently, low oven heat or a covered pan on low, which also prevents the fish from drying out or developing a strong reheated smell. Store fish in the coldest part of your fridge and eat leftovers within 1 to 2 days. If you're batch cooking salmon, tuna, or mackerel for the week, portion it out so you're only reheating what you'll eat in one sitting. Let's bring everything together. 6 foods, 1 consistent set of principles, and 1 clear conclusion. Reheating food safely isn't complicated, and the benefits, saving money, reducing food waste, preserving nutrients, and making your week easier, far outweigh the small handful of things worth knowing. Food number 1, rice. Cool it fast, refrigerate within an hour, eat within a few days, reheat until steaming. Benefit: one of the cheapest, most reliable bulk meal prep staples available. Food number 2, chicken. Reheat to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Avoid habitual high heat charring. Use gentle reheating to keep it moist. Benefit: a dependable, affordable protein that holds up beautifully across a week of meal prep. Food number 3, leafy greens. Refrigerate promptly, eat within a couple of days, reheat thoroughly. Benefit: some nutrients actually become more absorbable after cooking and reheating. Food number 4, eggs. Reheat gently and evenly. Store hard-boiled eggs unpeeled. Benefit: one of the most nutrient-dense, budget-friendly proteins you can build a diet around, fresh or reheated. Food number 5, potatoes. Avoid leaving foil-wrapped potatoes at room temperature. Store unwrapped. Reheat thoroughly. Benefit: a fiber-rich, filling, versatile food that reheats especially well in an oven or air fryer. Food number 6, seafood. Freshness and cold storage before the first cook matter far more than the reheating step itself. Reheat gently and eat leftovers promptly. Benefit: an easy way to get more omega-3s into your week without cooking fish every single day. Three fundamentals show up again and again across every one of these foods. Cool it quickly, store it properly, reheat it thoroughly. That's it. That's the entire system. What I want you to actually do with this. Here are simple, practical habits. No special equipment required. No need to throw out perfectly good food out of fear. Cool cooked food within 1 to 2 hours whenever possible, especially rice, potatoes, and leafy greens. Spreading food out on a wide, shallow container speeds this up significantly compared to leaving it in a deep pot. Use airtight containers for refrigerator storage. It keeps food fresher longer, preserves texture, and reduces the surface exposure that can lead to bacterial growth. Reheat food until it's steaming hot throughout, not just warm on the surface. Stir midway through microwaving to eliminate cold spots. Eat leftovers within a reasonable window, generally 3 to 4 days for most cooked foods, sooner for fish and leafy greens. Don't leave foil-wrapped baked potatoes sitting at room temperature for extended periods. Invest in a cheap food thermometer if you want precision. Hitting 165 degrees Fahrenheit is the single most protective step for meat, poultry, and egg dishes. Batch cook and portion your meals in advance. This isn't just about safety, it's genuinely one of the best ways to save money, reduce food waste, and make healthy eating sustainable during a busy week. Before I finish, I want to ask you something. Which of these 6 foods surprised you the most? Was it rice, the one almost everyone already reheats without a second thought? Was it potatoes, a risk most people have never even heard of? Or was it fish, the one people either overfear or underthink? Let me know in the comments, and if there's a specific food you'd like me to cover in a future video, leave that below too. I read every comment and they genuinely shape future videos on this channel. If you found this practical and useful, consider subscribing. I publish one new video every week, and each one follows the same approach. Real, peer-reviewed food science translated into information you can actually use. No fear-mongering, no supplements to sell, just practical guidance that makes your kitchen life easier and your food budget go further. Before we close, think about someone in your life who could use this. A college student living on rice and chicken meal prep, a parent packing school lunches, someone who avoids reheating fish because they're not sure it's safe, or a friend who throws away a perfectly good baked potato because they weren't sure how long it had been sitting out. Share this with them, not to worry them, to make their week a little easier and their food budget go a little further. Everything in this video reflects current food safety guidance from agencies including the USDA, the CDC, and the European Food Safety Authority, and is intended for general educational purposes. It isn't personal medical or dietary advice. If you have specific health conditions, a compromised immune system, pregnancy, or a chronic illness, check with your doctor or a registered dietitian about any food safety practices specific to your situation. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. William, and I'll see you in the next video. Word count, approximately 3,800.